webinar. 3 presentations today, so we'll be going at a fair old late. We'll start off with a presentation on equality, diversity and inclusion, which Lesley and Cathy will be presenting. Then we'll go over to Jamila just to say something about the Champion National Parks for Everyone project, and we'll finish with Wuthering Heights. Of course we will, how would you not? With Sarah just giving some reflections on the work that we did recently, as that film was recorded partly in the Yorkshire Dales, now showing it at the best cinemas apparently. The Savoy at Catterick is one of them. If you've got any questions, if you've got any questions of the presenters, can you put them in the chat? I think that would be helpful. Just before bringing in Lesley and Cathy, I just wanted to say 2 or 3 things, if I could, on a couple of pertinent issues, I think. I mean, firstly, the peer review. So you'll have seen my email last week giving an update on the peer review. Just to emphasise that I'm very happy to talk privately with any member of staff about the generality of the process at this point, and when we actually get into the consultation phase, when that begins, which will be after the FNR meeting in a couple of weeks, I'll again be available for conversations with anyone who wishes to raise an individual matter. I'm aware of the sensitivities around this particular issue, and it's important that information is out there. So just to re-emphasise that. Secondly, just some words on the financial position that the authority are facing. We still haven't received definitive notification from government, from DEFRA, about our finances, but the overall picture is more positive than it's been for some time. The only bad news as such is that our revenue grant is expected to remain at the current level, the 2025-26 level, which is 4.8 million. That in itself is around 450,000 down on the previous year. This is the lowest grant level we've had since around 2007. However, we're nevertheless expecting several important additions to the budget. So we are anticipating over £1 million of additional capital funding, and that's for each of the next 3 years. We're expecting further breaking down barriers, the access for all funding. Not quite sure what that's going to be. It was around 113, 114,000 previously. Could potentially be higher this time. Again, waiting for the notification. Most of you, I think, will be aware we received some very good news on the farming and protected landscapes funding, around £1.75 million per annum over the next 3 years. And we've had confirmation of a £200,000 uplift for the active travel scheme. So this all contributes to a significantly improved overall position. Particularly encouraging, I think, is the shift to a 3-year settlement. We've been after this for a long time. The government are now saying that we've got the 3-year settlement, 1 year is confirmed, and the next 2 years are indicative. That's not unusual. But it does allow us to plan with greater confidence, I think, and take a more strategic view of our work. In addition, we'll be meeting senior DEFRA officials next week to discuss the opportunities and challenges we face over the next 3 years, ensuring we continue to make the best possible case for the Dales National Park Authority. The budget proposals will be taken to the Finance and Resources Committee at the end of this month. So thank you to everyone involved in preparing the material for that. And lastly, just a quickie on the leadership changes across the national parks in England. So as you may be aware, there are a number of changes at Chief Exec level across national park authorities, with 4 departures and 3 recently confirmed new appointments. I'm pleased to see Claire Burrows is keeping staff informed in terms of what's happening here. You'll probably be aware that between my leaving at the end of March and the new appointee taking up the role, that Gary Smith will be acting as the interim chief exec. That'll result in some short-term changes in the Conservation and Community Department, which he is currently discussing with colleagues. Now, the chief exec changes will obviously cause disruption in individual authorities, but it will also have a broader corporate impact across England, particularly on some of the professional officer working groups where continuity is important. It'll take some time for the new appointees to settle in and engage fully, so we can expect a period of flux, and you might see that in your own professional groups. However, these changes also create some really important opportunities for fresh ideas and new approaches across the family of national parks. It's also worth noting that National Parks England themselves have appointed a new chief executive, Debbie Stockwell. Gary and I will be meeting her shortly to discuss matters relevant to the Yorkshire Dales National Park Authority and National Parks England as we continue to work collectively on our shared challenges and priorities. Okay, so just some brief updates on those. I'll now come to the first presentation, if I can, which is from Lesley Knevitt and Cathy Bergs on equality, diversity and inclusion. Lesley, Cathy.
Hello. Oh.
Yes.
Hello. Can you see us?
Yes, we can see you.
Yeah, good. Okay. Hello, everybody. Thanks for having us on today. I'm Lesley. This is Cathy. Hello. And we're both part of the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Working Group here at the Authority. And so we're just going to run through a bit about what this group is and what we do, what we're about. Just sit tight and I'll start the presentation.
So everyone knows about the importance of equality, diversity and inclusion in the workplace and in everything the Authority does during the course of its business. But how does this happen in practice? Lesley.
Thank you. So here at the Authority, we've got an active and effective working group to help guide and advise the Authority approach to EDI. The group is made up of representation from across the Authority's various teams and work areas, and including SMT members and Unison.
The group meets twice a year, in April and September. It provides a focus to help the Authority to integrate equality, diversity and inclusion in all its business, including strategic planning, policy development and service delivery. The group is also responsible for raising awareness among members and officers through practical examples of best practice, providing updated advice and information. Members and SMT receive an annual update on what the group has received. Are we not sharing it?
No, can I interrupt just
Yeah,
a second?
sorry, it looks like we're not sharing the screen.
Can I just help a little bit?
Yeah.
So just go to your Teams. No, click on share.
He's like Superman, isn't he? Just
Superman.
stepping in there and
again?
sorting out problems.
No. Okay.
Can I just ask, is that working for everybody now?
It is working, Phil, thanks.
Perfect, thank you. So apologies to interrupt, Phil.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Right. So that's what we're about. To bring it a bit to life, here are the current members of the group. For you, any of you who don't recognise the faces, I'll just run through them quickly. Vicky Thomas. Vicky's the lead officer for EDI and she's chair of the working group. She says, I've seen the Authority make real progress after the past 5 years and I'm proud of how far we've come. My vision is to keep that momentum going, making inclusion part of our everyday culture. Next along is Claire Burrows. She's the SMT lead and says, EDI is about recognising different backgrounds, knowledge, skills and experiences and seeing the differences between people as a benefit, making sure they feel valued and respected. Next along, we've got Rebecca Greenfield. Rebecca also represents the Authority nationally as part of the English National Park Authority's EDI group. And then we have Richard Graham, Jim Ingham, Julie Braid, Steve Hasty, Mark Sadler, Jamila Gaskin, Isabel Thompson, Peter Stockton, Hannah Kay, me, Lesley, and Cathy. We couldn't squeeze any more pictures in on this slide, but importantly, we've got Julie Hutton as the member representative on the group, as member champion for corporate management, and Vicky Derbyshire advises the group as the Unison rep from North Yorkshire Council.
So looking back over the past year, here are some examples of the work that we've been involved in. We've researched and recommended the introduction of a dyslexia-friendly style approach to all the documents, including committee report templates, to make them more accessible to all. Additionally, at committee meetings, a new microphone system has improved the experience for both hearing and visually impaired participants, including braille dots with a microphone function. We've encouraged the consideration of having quiet spaces at large gatherings like our staff meeting and staff development days, because of feedback from previous events had highlighted that some individuals find the busy hall environment hard to cope with.
Oh, hang on. Hang on. Hooray. Okay. In terms of recruitment, we've considered and advised on the challenges the authority faces when trying to attract and retain younger members of staff and the barriers those younger members may face. The authority is committed to being part of the Disability Confidence Scheme, which is designed to encourage employers to think differently about disability and take action to improve how we recruit, retain and develop disabled people.
We've also considered how we can adapt the interview processes to make them more inclusive and supportive to all candidates. For example, offering online information sessions before interviews, sharing interview questions in advance, or using visual icebreakers during the interview. We're required to make reasonable adjustments for candidates and existing staff which have declared a disability, but we want to extend this flexibility to anyone who may be struggling, even if they haven't formally declared a disability, or who, for example, may not be neurotypical. Slight adjustments can make the most of someone's strengths and offer support for things they might find the most difficult. Examples might include additional time for tasks or interviews, providing the option to work from a different desk or office, and maybe considering introducing mentors, buddies and coaches for some support or being flexible with working times or enabling frequent breaks within tasks.
In 2024, a new legal duty came into force requiring employers to stop it, Cathy, to take reasonable steps to prevent sexual harassment at work. To respond to this, a subgroup of the working group was formed last year to review the legislation and identify what might be put in place here at the authority. We made recommendations for the senior management team to consider and approve.
Swipe. Consideration of EDI extends across all the areas of authority work. So we've had recent procurement contracts, including Rachel Briggs's work on reprofiling the accessible paths. We've got trampers that are going to be available now at all centres this year. At DCM, Fiona's done a lot of work on the family-friendly provision for SEND families, and we've got changing places being rolled out across the national park centres. And the area range is working with John Tye and Phil Richards on the redesign of our car parks to improve accessibility and better servicing. This is Grassington, you can see here.
Going forward, remaining challenges include improving workforce diversity, particularly in relation to ethnicity and age profile. So our priorities for the year ahead include strengthening our engagement with underrepresented groups and reviewing our recruitment practices to attract younger and more ethnically diverse candidates. Next, I'll hand you over to Cathy to tell us about some great examples of diversity and inclusion at National Park Visitor Centre and her own lived experience with her family.
So last year at Aysgarth, we were working with two people with additional needs, and I've had their permission to talk about this, and they've given me some feedback as well. So I was approached by a special college in Ripon to see if I could take on a work placement student called Cara, who's a teenager, for a day a week in spring and summer last year. So first I talked to my excellent line manager, I have to say that because it's a break season, and she was very supportive, and I spoke to Learning and Engagement and Paul Bishop, who's had a similar experience. And most importantly, I spoke to the team at Aysgarth, because without them being on board, I wouldn't have really considered this. And uniformly, without exception, the team was absolutely excellent, very welcoming, patient, supportive, and they really made this work very well. So Cara came along, and It was a good experience. I mean, at first I was very daunted because I didn't know enough about her learning disability and how she might react in certain situations. And we were kind of in loco parentis, so it was very nerve-wracking. But she soon settled in, and here you can see her on this slide. She's making a film with Mohammed about diversity and the trampers, and she just had a wonderful time. We also have a man called Charlie who's autistic. He lives quite locally, and he started off as a Dales volunteer doing the meet and greeting at Aysgarth with our excellent team. You can see Simon and Keith on the slide there. They've got really good relationship with Charlie now, and he's developed so many skills working with the public, and now is a fully paid member of the authority workforce. He's a casual information advisor covering sick and holiday leave, and a really happy and good member of the team, and he's really improved. You can see his skills, how they've developed over the year, and he feels really supported, and is really happy to be part of the workforce. Very little cost to the authority, a bit of staff time, a few extra hours for Charlie to make sure it worked for him, going at his sort of level that he wanted to go at. And we think overall it's improved our service delivery, because no matter how much training you can do, actually working with someone with additional needs is really positive. And we can see that the public have seen that that we're so inclusive, and it's been really good for the team. So if anyone wants any information about that, or if they're thinking of doing it, I know it's not right for every department. It works very well with the National Park Centres, but do get in touch. And finally, I've shared some of my lived experience with the group, the EDI group. This is Poppy, my daughter. She was the elf at the Accessible Mother Christmas at the museum in Hawes. And just the highs and the lows, there's lots to talk about, but very briefly, the lows of being in the world of disability is mainly bureaucracy. It's absolutely horrendous. It's adversarial. It never ends. It's really quite horrific. So when I'm with other families with disabilities, that's really what we talk about, is the bureaucracy. For a very rich country, we're not very good at helping people. But the highs are just Poppy. She's an excellent person, as all my children are, but I've got a family of teenagers, so she's the most verbal and communicative at the moment, and we just have a great time with her, so it's entirely worth it. Over to you, Lesley.
Thanks, Cathy. So the point of this presentation is just to remind everybody that EDI considerations and responsibilities run through all teams, all areas of work, and everybody, not just the working group, can play a part. So if anyone's interested in joining the group or would like to see what we do, contact one of us or come along to the next meeting, which is in April. Just get in touch with me. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's great.
I don't know how to stop sharing.
Yeah,
Oh.
turn the microphone off.
Yeah, that's it. Got it. Gotcha.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lesley. Thank you, Cathy. And Cathy, thanks for sharing that rather personal lived experience and feeling that you're able to do that amongst friends and colleagues here this afternoon. Much appreciated. We'll come on to our second presentation, which is Jamila Gaskin, who's going to tell us something about the Champion National Parks for Everyone programme. Jamila, over to you.
Hi everyone, bear with me a second while I share my screen. Which is taking a little while. So I'm going to tell you about the Champion National Parks for Everyone project, which I have been working on for the last 18 months at the authority. So it's been quite an exciting project. It's been led by Peak District Mosaic and funded by the National Lottery Heritage Fund. But what's been really great about it is that we have worked alongside other national parks. So the project has been running in the North York Moors and Peak District National Parks, which has given great opportunity for kind of shared experiences and learning from each other over the last 18 months. So the main aim of the project was that everyone should be confident to visit and enjoy national parks for the benefit of their health, well-being and developing new knowledge and skills to help protect national parks for future generations. Particularly for this project, the focus has been to work with people from ethnic minority communities who live close to the national parks, who we know from lots of statistics don't access the national parks as much as other groups do. So throughout this project, we have had the aims of increasing the diversity of visitors, to develop skill sets within our visitors to support more independent visits, to create pathways and kind of improve employment opportunities, and also really think about how we share opportunities to be able to reach a wider audience. And so main bits of delivery for me at the National Park have been around the Community Champion Training Programme, working with the engagement trainee, Giovanni Sterling, who unfortunately finished last week just before this presentation, so wasn't able to join us today, and delivering visits for groups and kind of working with groups, kind of help support them to kind of experience the national park, but really working with them to see what they wanted to get out of the visits. So our role within this project comes to an end in March 2026, but for Peak District Mosaic, quite a big part of their development part of the project has been about developing them to be a more robust charity. So for them, the project actually ends in December, and they're looking at kind of how can they become a more sustainable charity going forward that are really able to help push forward kind of improving access to national parks, encouraging people from ethnic minority backgrounds to continue to visit, and also develop a network of community champions, which I will come on to, that are again working within their communities to support visits and support each other. So really over the last year, we've worked to deliver 16 monthly trips that have reached over 250 people, many of which have not visited the national parks before. And kind of lots of the experience that we have had is that we've had comments like, do you know, my children have been on visits and I've heard them talk about Malham or Grassington, but it's a place they've never been to. So of the 16 groups, 9 of the groups that I worked with were completely new to the national park, which I think was really big success, that I've had kind of the opportunity to go out and do lots and lots of outreach in different areas and really reaching out to different communities to kind of share the work we do in the national park, but also how close it is to areas like Leeds, Bradford and Keighley. We've done quite a nice range of activities. So on the slides here, you see we've got a farm during lambing. So that was a really exciting trip, and one of the very first ones I did actually, where we were up on a farm, really learning about farming at what is probably the busiest time in spring, but getting really hands-on, getting the hay in to feed for the lamb, for the sheep that were still inside waiting to lamb, and helping to feed some of the lambs that needed that extra support. And the group absolutely loved that day. And I think what also added to it was that they were able to get the train up, which really added to their experience overall. And kind of in a contrast, we had a group who were really interested in the heritage, and thanks to Jane and Fiona for their support on this, because then we went up to DCM, and as you can see, even as adults, getting involved in fancy dress and really enjoying kind of seeing the history of the national park. And kind of the standout for that day was that lots of the women on there were able to connect lots of the rural traditions that we have to kind of rural traditions they had back home in Pakistan, and being able to make that connection across and be able to share that was just made a really beautiful kind of day. And as well as kind of for more culture and heritage visits, we've also done lots and lots of walks that are varied in length depending on the group, looking for signs of autumn and spring. This group here, we walked the Dales Way from Grassington to Kettlewell because they wanted a little bit more of a challenging walk than we kind of normally do when we go to Malham or to just in Grassington. But they gave such positive feedback about the day, and it was such a great day filled with so much laughter that they said, I'm going to read a quote from them, was that they'd like to extend a heartfelt thank you for organising such a wonderful hike in the national park. We had an amazing time exploring the beautiful scenery, and a special shout out to you and Roger for being such a fantastic guide. We really appreciated your expertise and enthusiasm throughout the hike. Now, this group were quite used to walking. They have a walking group within Leeds and just never really ventured out further than like Otley. So this gave them kind of the opportunity to come further, and lots of the group kind of didn't even know the national park was kind of there or what the Yorkshire Dales was. So for them, they were kind of mind blown to say, actually, this is here and it's on our doorstep and it's somewhere that we can access. And on that day, we did a little bit of like map work and navigation. And they've already been back to the national park and sent me other pictures of them independently going out and visiting, which has been brilliant. A really big part of this role has been the community champion training, which is kind of the heart of the project. And the aim was for us to recruit 24 community champions for the project. We've succeeded that and recruited 29 who've come from the towns and cities around the national park, mainly from Leeds, Bradford and Keighley, but some have come from a little bit further, from like Huddersfield and also Nelson, which has been really exciting. And the only thing we asked of the community champions is that they had a passion for the outdoors. And what that meant is that we've created kind of this really rich plethora of people who have lots of different experiences, from some doing community group leaders, from walk leaders who do lead walks and wanted a bit more experience, CIC directors, people who just like to go for a walk with their families. But in them all coming together, they've been able to just create a really beautiful kind of family where they were learning from us through the training, but also from each other and being able to share their experience and kind of go, I'm not the only person kind of wanting to lead and looking at things like a really different way. So a quote from one of the champions was that, I loved meeting like-minded people. The nervousness when we first met up became feeling like a family in the end. And that was really true. And it's probably been one of my favourite bits about this last year, that each group of champions on the very first session, we do kind of icebreakers, getting to know each other. Everybody's, like I said, has that really different experience. And because it's quite a new kind of thing, it's not really known what they're going to get out of it. But that being able to come back to a family, and I think having a residential in has really helped that. And the fact that we've had 6 sessions where we've got to know each other, WhatsApp groups where they're sharing photos, updates, really has created like this family and this network of really passionate people who all share this aim of just wanting to explore the Dales, explore the outdoors, and get their family, friends, loved ones, community groups out alongside them. So through the champion training, kind of the main things that we have really focused on are developing leadership skills, getting to know a bit more about the Yorkshire Dales, its history, the nature, navigation, which has taken up quite a nice big chunk. And I'll be the first to say I've come on a long way from my navigation skills just by being involved in this project. Risk assessments, group management, and along with that, just kind of being able to share their confidence, increase their confidence, share skills, share experience with other champions, and create this network of people who, like I said, are really passionate and are now part of this 84 strong network across the 3 national parks that are all trying to get more people engaged in the outdoors. So after completing the community champion training, each community champion was able to access a bursary of £300 to lead an activity for their community. Now, this could be kind of anybody they know. So that could be their family, their friends, and it could go to like working with with other CICs, community organisations. So we've had quite a wide breadth of people that these community champions have gone out and reached, who are people that we wouldn't usually reach in our kind of day-to-day work in the learning and engagement team. And it has been brilliant to see that they've gone out and they've been able to pick where they want to go and visit in the Dales, and some have revisited places from their childhood like Bolton Abbey, or decided, actually, I've seen the video of Hardraw Force and I really want to go there, and I'm going to figure out how I'm going to get there. So they've been across the national park and have been quite broad in their remits for how long the walks have been, what they've done, and how they've used that bursary, whether it's being for transport or being able to provide food or pay for an activity leader. One of the groups went to Stumcross Caverns to kind of showcase caves and caving in the Dales. So it has been really exciting. And I'm not going to read it all out because it's quite a long comment, but I will just leave it on the screen for a bit. Just a comment on some feedback that one of our community champions, Lorraine, had after she was really brave and reached out to a local youth group to organise a trip through the bursary. And it was a really great day. It's one that I went along to support with, but Lorraine did a stellar job in leading and the group absolutely loved it. And through the community champion training, like I think the biggest takeaway has been, like, to say the dreaded J word, the word journey comes up everywhere, but to be able to see the community champions kind of progress, like I said, from that first day when they came with kind of a bundle of nerves and not really knowing what to expect, kind of developing their relationships with the family, but also to see how their confidence has grown. So Marianne was one of the community champions in the very first cohort that started back in February 25, who at the time she joined, she was debating a career change. She'd wanted to work more with her local community. She'd done a little bit of forest schooling, and she wanted to be able to take a step and kind of looking at how she could do more around, like, engaging with nature within her local community. So that's why she took part in this, and kind of through this project she then said that the training has given her the knowledge and confidence to explore the Ochdales with community groups. The group leader skills I've learned are extremely valuable and will make my work increasingly effective and greater enjoyable for participants. So she, like Lorraine, also pushed herself out of her comfort zone in then developing networks with other community groups. So through the project, she made links with a homeschool network who she then hosted for her trip out into the Dales. And the reason I really highlighting Mariam is that she also then became the facilitator and led the training for cohort 3, which started in September. And it was a really nice kind of full circle moment that she'd gone from being a champion to leading, which like I said, has given a lot of confidence, but also just, I think, her sharing her experience and being able to say, look, this is what I've done with through this project, has kind of inspired quite a lot of the other champions, and has been, a really beautiful thing to witness. And of the 29 champions that we have in the Ochdales, we currently have 6 who have signed up to continue as volunteers within the national park, which I think was also a really great achievement in terms of increasing diversity in our volunteers and being able to do a little bit more outreach in people who wouldn't usually come and volunteer, and a bit like to have some of our groups see themselves like represented in the staff and volunteers working with us, I think will be really quite powerful and quite exciting. Now, I am going to end with a video which Charlotte has very kindly put together for us, with just some interviews of our community champions, kind of sharing a bit of their experience, so you get to hear it from their point of view. Now, I have shared my sound, so I do hope it does play.
Program.
yeah, so to end kind of with the champion's own words, and that, like I said, we've got just over 6 weeks left of delivery, and so far the community champions have delivered trips for 240 people, and hoping by the end of the project that'll extend to 300 people. And we're quite excited to kind of see how it develops. Currently working on a bit of a legacy project of kind of setting up, supporting the champions to continue to lead walks to the Dales and trips, because like I said, they are groups that we're not reaching, and if we can help support people who are better placed to reach, then we should totally keep doing it. So yeah, thank you for your time, and yeah, enjoyed working with you.
Thank you, Jamila. That was quite something, and I think it shows the power of video, doesn't it? Not only to get messages across, but just to capture people's experiences. So thanks to all who were involved in that. I think that's a really good way of illustrating the value of an amazing project like that. That's much appreciated. Thanks very much. We'll just come on to the last presentation today, which is from Sarah Whiteley, who's been involved relatively recently with an international film company, some of the biggest stars and directors in the world, obviously not as big as Phil, who's just sat at the side of it there, but you know, important people. And she's just going to share some of that experience with us. Sarah.
Thank you. Okay, so everyone see that?
Yep, got that.
Okay, cool. So I'm Sarah Whiteley. I manage the historic environment team here. I'm also the development control archaeologist for the national park. I wanted to share my experience really of working on this project last year, because it was a unique experience, very challenging, overwhelming at times, but tremendous fun. Started for me with a meeting in December 2024 with the location manager for the film, Lottie Mason. The meeting also involved Alan Hume, Michael Briggs, Mark Sadler and Sheila Roberts. Lottie explained that the film was going to be another interpretation of the Wuthering Heights story, and that one of the locations chosen for filming was a scheduled monument, Old Gang Mine. As I'm sure you all know, Wuthering Heights is a novel by Emily Bronte, the youngest of the Bronte sisters of Haworth. Written in 1847, it encompasses romance, cruelty and revenge, played out on the desolate West Yorkshire moors. The director of this version is Emerald Fennell, an actor and director who you may have seen playing Camilla Parker Bowles in The Crown. Her most recent film is Saltburn. In a recent newspaper article, she was described as having built her career on constructing outrageous social media friendly narratives with strongly provocative elements. And I think enough said about that there. As the film company wanted to construct a set within the scheduled area of Old Gang Mine, they were going to need a scheduled monument consent through Historic England. An initial site meeting was arranged in early January last year with myself, Lottie and colleagues on site, with the Historic England inspector for the area at the time, Pete Owen. This was to discuss what was required for the scheduled monument consent. So Old Gang Smelt Mill was built around 1846 for the processing of lead ore from locally extracted material. Located on Reeth Highmoor between Ark and Garthdale and Swaledale, Old Gang Mine was designated a scheduled monument in 1979 for its extensive, varied and well-preserved remains. These include the remains of the 19th century Old Gang Mill, which is the lower section in this complex, and the 18th century New Mill, which was located slightly higher on above the watercourse Barney Beck. Earlier mine workings, including hushers, remains of a peat drying shed, miners' huts and flues are also features of this extensive monument. Scheduled monument consent is required for any works to a scheduled monument, which includes modification of it through the addition or removal of material, which was quite pertinent in this case.
So when we met on site, we discussed the location of the set that the film company wanted to build, and how ground disturbance was going to be avoided, etc. The location that was chosen was at the western end of the site, and it was fairly inert. So it was a big area of very stable lead mining waste, and we were told that you can see in the image on the bottom left that the set was going to be basically placed on either feet or be sort of on weight, so it wasn't really going to cause any ground disturbance. So we were quite comfortable with that at the time. And at this meeting, it was also agreed that there would be no-go areas to protect the ruins and other evidence of industrial activity on the site. So moving to the next slide, the image in the bottom left shows the no-go areas which were sort of marked out with electric fence posts. Shortly before the filming was due to start and the sets be built, the locations manager sent me this plan. Now, Lottie's lines are the red ones, and my hashes here are where I said, no, you can't do anything in that area. You know, you really have got to stick to the track. At that time, I just thought that the old gang sort of ruins were just going to be a backdrop. But it turns out that the directors had other ideas. So just before, at the early stage of sort of preparing the site for filming, I went out there because I thought, well, this is going to probably be the main time that I need to be here, because they're going to erect this this set, which was sort of complex of cliffs. And I'd been talking to the locations manager and sort of trying to decide how much I needed to be on site. Was I just going to pop in when they were filming, or, you know, did I need to be there more? And it was witnessing these guys kind of delivering the cliffs in this short video of them, which was the point at which I thought, do you know what? I think I need to be here just about all the time, really, because this really brought it home to me. The sheer numbers of people who are going to be involved in the filming, and just that there's going to be a lot of people on site who've got no concept of the fact that this is a scheduled monument in a protected landscape, and I'm really going to have to be on my toes, just sort of making sure that nothing goes quite badly wrong, really. But this was certainly the wake-up call day, really. Bore you too much with that. So this slide shows a little bit more about the construction of this this part of the set. You can see it's only made out of sort of expanded polystyrene and fiberglass, so it was quite light. The image here is on the bottom left is a guy just doing a little bit of work to stick everything together. You can see just next to him there's one of the weights that kept it in place. So at that point it was all like, oh, there's not too much of an issue here, no ground disturbance. And the image on the right hand side shows what the cliffs looked like when they were actually built, which was quite striking, really, particularly towards the end of the day. And then the next day was the first day of filming, and again, I not really got any concept of how many people were going to be involved, and this was just a small part of the filming at the site, just the morning of the first day, and it involved child actors kind of running through the cliff set, and quite early on, because of the health and safety issues with kids. The directors and the sort of props people turned up with this platform, and I'm like, well, you can't really attach that to the ground because you've not got scheduled monument consent. So the sort of solution to that was having these crash mats. The lady with the long hair is the stunt director, who just wouldn't speak to me at all. I was just way down too far down the food chain to have any notice taken of me, but that was quite interesting as well. And this bottom right image shows this cellophane pipe, because the director actually really wanted bad weather. She wanted it to be grey and gloomy and miserable, and actually throughout it was bright sunshine, quite windy, very cold, but you know, it was really, really bright weather. So they had to bring in this what I'd call dry ice, but I don't think it was. It was some kind of chemical that produced a kind of fog. So throughout it was and with holes in, so this fog was sort of constantly blowing across the site. So day 2, this was when things got really crazy, really. It's very windy overnight. The night before this day of filming, and the cliffs blew over. This was a point at which there was a little bit of damage, and probably the worst damage that happened throughout, really. But the cliffs fell onto a wall on this little ruined building here. One of the coping stones was cracked, but I'll talk a bit about that further towards the end. But the other thing that happened that day was it became clear that the agreement to no-go area was completely out the window because the director wanted to use the ruins. So, you know, and I mean, I think these 2 images give again a sense of how many people were on site, everything that was going on. You've got a generator in this top one here. You've got this canopy was moved round whilst the filming was going on, so that the director could watch it on a monitor. So this was being moved around all the time. So there was all sorts going on, and I was just, in the end, I was just running around trying to firefight, really. I mean, they were quite good, because I think after I'd shouted at a few people, they sort of got it that they weren't supposed to move things around. But nevertheless, there was a lot of activity in the building, so I had to keep a particular eye on that. And then there were 2 incidents that really stick in my mind about this day. The image on the left-hand side, can you see this puddle? Well, that depression was filled with water, and Margot Robbie, wearing a red ball gown, had to run through the building to Jacob Elordi at the other end, and they obviously didn't want it to get wet or slip or anything. So the props people started filling in this puddle. I'm like, you can't do that. You can't add material to a schedule. I must have sounded so square to them, but I had to do it. And so the solution was to go and fetch this sort of big piece of felt material, and they laid it in the puddle. And I've got this really strong memory of being at Margot Robbie's feet, helping the props guys just spread this felt over this puddle. I'm like, it was like a fever dream. It was just nuts. So that was the morning of that day. And then in the afternoon, I was just having my lunch. One of the good things about it, there was loads of really nice food. It was all free, so that was good. So I was having my lunch, and this lady came to find me. She said, "Oh, Sarah, the directors want to speak to you." And that was quite a red letter thing, really, because you didn't speak to the directors. I learned that quite early on after I tried to introduce myself to Emerald Fennell, because I thought I was somebody, you know, I'm the National Parks archaeologist, and she just didn't want to know. Anyway, so this afternoon, I was summoned to speak to the directors, and they wanted to take a huge vehicle with a boom on it right into the heart of the oldest part of the site. And I just said, look, I'm so sorry you can't, because, you know, you're going to cause some compaction. We could have a collapse. You've not got scheduled monument consent to do this. And they just said, oh, no, don't worry, that's fine. We'll just do it with a handheld camera. So that was all good. And I thought, oh, well, I am some use here. So those are 2 sort of standout memories, really. And then this was the last day that I was really heavily involved. Well, it's really the last day of filming at Old Gang. And there was quite an early start that day. And what happened when they were full on filming, you couldn't, you had to be taken on site from the location base at Langthwaite. So you're either bussed up in a minibus or a 4-wheel drive. And that particular day, they started really early. And I got there a bit after things had started to kick off. And there were vehicles everywhere. So I had to kind of go around trying to get people to park on rubber mats. They got lots of, sort of protective mats and things. So they were fine about it. But I was a bit annoyed because I just thought, it's day 3. I've been saying, just trying to stay off the remains if you possibly can throughout. And anyway, so that's how the day started. And then the next thing was this prop turned up, which is some sort of gallows. And I'm like, well, what's this? I didn't know about this. Where are you going to put it? I had no idea this was going to come. And the guy that brought it sort of faffed about a bit and then couldn't find anywhere to put it anyway. And then he just took it away. And I was like, oh, fantastic. That's something that I don't have to worry about. And then later in the morning, I was having my lunch with the props guys, eating again, obviously. And this thing turned up again. And I'm like, oh my God, it's that again. And so he sort of drove it through the site and then drove it back. And I just thought, I'll get a photograph of this. And can you see there's a stone here in front of this tyre? And just after I took this photograph, he drove the trailer over that stone, and the whole thing, the top of the gallows just like pivoted, and it was kind of too heavy for the frame it was on, and the whole thing just broke up into pieces right in front of us, which I thought was I enjoyed that, I have to say, I have to admit, I really enjoyed that. So yeah, getting towards the end now. Some of the stars who were there, Jacob Elordi, he's in Saltburn, and what else? Something that was on BBC just before Christmas, The Narrow Road to the Deep South. Margot Robbie, obviously, Barbie, Wolf of Wall Street, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. The child actor, I don't know who she is, I'm afraid, and obviously Emerald Fennell. I wasn't supposed to take pictures, but I had to because I was monitoring the site. So I have got this, but please don't share any of this stuff if you don't mind. Not at least until the film is released on the 14th next week. The other guy that was there was Owen Cooper, who was the star in Adolescence. And I didn't see much of him, but I was in there's a couple of shooting huts on the site that were being used as green rooms, and somewhere you could get a cup of tea and a warm. And I was in one of those ones, just having a cup of tea, and he was slumped in a plastic chair right next to me, glued to his phone. And I hadn't seen Adolescence at that point. I think if I had, I would have possibly said something like, I hope you're not being radicalised. Anyway, moving on. The other thing was Jacob Elordi's lovely dog, absolutely gorgeous dog, immaculately turned out, immaculately behaved. So that was really lovely, very friendly dog. And then just at the end, just a bit of the sort of information about impacts. Because the weather was so good, we were really lucky. It was sunny. There was a wind all the time, so it was really good drying weather. So there wasn't really much damage to the site at all. There was a bit of poaching on this top track to the old mill, which they did take a vehicle onto kind of a piece of hard standing, which was fine. I didn't let them go right into the heart of the buildings. And the other thing was this was the broken coping stone, but the locations people were really good about sort of tidying up, and they organised for that to be repaired within about 3 weeks of the end of filming. So they were quite good. They were really good at sort of tying up the loose ends. So that's me really. I hope you've enjoyed that.
Thank you, Sarah. That's very much appreciated. Some interesting comments in the chat, which you might want to look at, and some offers of help. So can't get any better than that, I wouldn't have thought. Yeah, much appreciated, Sarah. Thank you. That's it for today then, folks. Just a big thank you to all the speakers today. It takes quite a lot of preparation to pull this together, and even more preparation then to get it down into a particular time slot. So very grateful to all the presenters who've been involved in this, and I shall catch you all very soon. Take care.